at 6:36. Turn my microphone on. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Okay. You want to have approval of the agenda. Where is it? There at the bottom. Are there any additions, deletions, corrections to the agenda? Anybody? No? Amanda, you got anything to add?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion regarding the agenda?
So.
Second? Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, how about the minutes? Additions, deletions, corrections to the minutes? Yes? No? All good? Dr. Love?
Yeah, it's fine.
All good? Is there a motion regarding the minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Brandon.
Second.
And then we have a second from Tom. Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair,
Turn your mic.
before we get into the program, could we have our newest member introduce himself?
Sure. That would be great.
So Brad Jackson, I work for a civil engineering and land surveying firm called Ingenuity Group. We do a lot of stuff with architects and stuff, so I thought this would be a good way to get on and kind of learn a little bit more about, you know, the preservation of the city and just get involved. So lived here since 2017, but I grew up in Wellington, so Palm Beach County native.
Excellent, welcome, we can use an architect.
Yes, we are.
Not an architect,
Well,
but
you know a lot of that.
I know a lot of them and I know a lot of them.
Very good. Welcome, Brad. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, that leads us to updates from Amanda. Do you have any updates, Amanda?
Yes, I just want to say good evening to everyone and welcome to our newest board member. We're happy to have you with us. My cards are here if anyone needs my contact information. And one small update, I will be sending everyone an email with the latest advisory board ordinance. There was some changes made to that ordinance. It does affect the powers and duties of this board. Fairly minor in scope, I believe, but you should all be aware of them. So I will be sending out an email to circulate those to you all sometime this week.
Can you give us an idea what the change might be for us?
Off the top of my head, so they added, there was some language about how many architectural preference people we have, how many, what was the other one, real estate professionals we have, and some of the powers have changed slightly. So there are some distinctions now between what the board may ask of staff to move forward with. There was a couple that were stricken. I will highlight the changes in the ordinance. The ordinance is 40 pages long. Most of it doesn't pertain to us, but I will highlight the areas that are specific to historic distinctions, just so everyone is aware of them. And then, of course, if you have any questions after you review them, feel free to email me.
You good? Okay. Okay. Anything else, Amanda, or are you good?
I don't have any other updates.
You're good, okay. All right, on to old business, updated report. And I see we have David Millage with us again. Are you here to speak to us, David Millage? Hello, welcome.
Good evening, board. David Phillips for the record. I really have nothing further to say. I know that you have an updated report. We're continuing to work with city staff regarding a preferable location for the structure. Possible grant monies for the cost of relocating the structure. So we're still working with Adam Temple and Amanda to figure out what's the best course of action.
Okay,
So we're still at it.
you guys have any questions for David?
Is there any kind of timeline that you have in mind for when you can start moving on this, or?
As soon as there's a preferable location for the structure is really starts the timeline with that. Right now, we're still exploring opportunities with staff.
Yeah. He's an attorney. You're the attorney for the new purchaser, right? New old purchaser?
The current owner.
The current owner, there you go. I actually had an idea that I thought I would offer to you as perhaps feasible.
Love to hear it.
Considering that the house in question is surrounded by green space, and it's at the very bottom tip of the property, I wondered if it might be possible to draw a line and see if the city would like to buy the house and the green space.
I believe based off of the development programming for the owner, the structure will need to be moved offsite.
So he would not be willing to sacrifice that little tip of land.
I mean, we'll be happy to explore it, but at this point in time, the preference is to move it offsite to a city-owned property.
Okay, it'd be nice if you would explore that for us.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know whether the city has money to buy it, but perhaps we can explore grant money to purchase it. If it's something that the owner would be willing to do, because green space is at a premium.
I would think that the cost is probably prohibitive for the city to purchase it.
As opposed to paying to move it.
Well, I'm just saying that with today's real estate market, you know, for a piece of land, considering the assemblage of all the other parcels, it's likely prohibitive for the city to want to purchase it. I think that available surplus land or opportunities that the city might have for a preferable relocation is probably the best avenue as it relates to relocation.
As a person, homeowner, living in kind of sort of that neighborhood, most of my life in Boynton, I would think the neighborhood would appreciate the green space as opposed to more apartments or whatever.
Understood. Although, I mean, just the economics aren't favorable in that approach.
Well, perhaps it could be evaluated what the impact would be to the cost evaluation of your project to lose. It's not that big of a chunk of land, actually, is it?
I guess it depends on where you would locate it, appropriate setbacks, additional green space around it that you might want to require. I couldn't say.
I would like that whole bottom chunk. How's that? Just draw a line.
I will bring it up to the attention of the property owner.
Did you find it here, Amanda, so we can see it? Or is that Craig moving it around?
It's me, I'm snooping, sorry.
Did you find it?
Yeah. Oh, did I go land on the wrong place?
Yeah, I landed you in the wrong place.
Sorry.
You clicked the right thing. I don't know where I put you. It's around there. I think.
This is it, right?
Yeah.
First.
I don't know where I put you. Okay, there you go.
There we go.
Can we see it from the sky, please?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, that was.
Oh, the kitty cat.
So that is it. In aerial view, this is the subject site that we're discussing. I will say that this is entitled property. It does have a land use and zoning designation and an approved site plan. So that does tend to increase the value of the land because that piece of property was also rezoned and has both density and commercial allowances on it.
Sure.
Mhm.
Amanda, question?
Of course. Joey, Mike.
Oh, I think I'm on. Amanda, question on, does the city have any objectives of what to do with the home, where to move it, how to save it? Any ideas on that?
In our earlier, I apologize about my microphone, I don't know why it's humming like that. But in our earlier discussions with the owner of the property, our most recent proposal that we received from him So some background, we know that this was actually phase 2 of a 2-part master plan. Everything north of Ocean was phase 1 and everything south of Ocean is phase 2. The north portion recently received a development order for some modifications, and they are planning to move to permitting shortly. Now, during the time between their initial approval and their amendment, which just got approved, they did acquire the piece of property that was a holdout previously, which is the corner of their north lot. So this area here, you can see my mouse right, yeah. So this area here is essentially phase 1. This was a dilapidated fourplex that the owners did successfully acquire recently. And the last proposal we received was to relocate the home from its current location to this location. The way the current site plan works, there would be commercial uses along this frontage that are set back and allow for a little courtyard area in front of them. So the proposal was to set back the house, even with the structure, and to hopefully get someone who can use the house for quick takeout, like a coffee shop or something, and do an urban plaza in front of the house to try and activate it and connect to the existing structure. Staff was not opposed to that proposal. I think our goal is to preserve the home, knowing that it's not designated currently, and that it's an entitled piece of property. I think that we are limited in some of the things we can do. So I think in terms of preservation and to maximize the use of that structure, staff does support that proposal.
So is that moving forward, that proposal, or is something else happening? Is that still an option?
I think it's probably still an option. I think that we're still exploring additional opportunities for the structure.
Okay. So we still have, that's still viable, and I guess it'll come back before. What can we do tonight as a board to protect the city's interest in, we only have really a handful of it. It should have been, I thought we designated it a couple of years ago when we did several, we didn't do this with Andrews, we did the Magnuson, no?
Yeah, apparently not.
But with the same thing with the Magnuson was done, and I'm sure the Women's Club is still protected, right? That's one that we have on the National Register.
Okay.
So we should, at the very least, do a local designation, and just not to encumber, we certainly don't want to encumber your project, just that if you're not able to save it and use it on your site, then we should have an ability to have another option of moving it somewhere as an infill lot somewhere, as a bed and breakfast or a little gift shop of some type that could work somewhere in someone's plan. At least give us the option.
The owner had proposed, can you get rid of this Flower Kingdom thing on the screen? Thank you. The fourplex that's right there, they wanted to move the Andrews to behind the fourplex. You're going to demolish the fourplex though, right?
Yeah, based off Amanda's,
Yes.
it would be a courtyard plaza, and supposedly the building would be behind it.
It would be behind the current location of that home, but it will be demoed. That building has already been condemned by the building department and had to be closed. So that is a defunct building and will be demoed.
Mm-hmm. It's not possible to put the Andrews house in that location on the corner?
It's possible. I think that we wanted to activate it as much as possible. So setting it back, I thought, would give it more presence and have just an open courtyard, just space for some seating to allow use to use it. But depending on the architects, on the suggestions of this board, it can be at the actual corner as well.
But that's a good
That would be my choice of all the
If you
choices.
think of, sorry, Sherwin, if you think of the museum just on the other side of the street, in front of that old schoolhouse is I wouldn't call it a courtyard, but there's seating opportunities, there's the butterfly garden, and I think that the intent of staff is to create a presence to where people actually want to engage with the structure. And that would just be a normal urban planning principle to activate the roadway.
So this area where they want to put it, the city already owns that property, correct? And how much of that area does the city already have control of?
So the city does not own it, the same landowner owns it.
All right, so you would have to purchase that from the landowner?
No, it would remain in private ownership. They would just relocate it from one of their parcels to another one of their parcels. And that way they can make use of that structure and the city would still have it preserved.
Right, and I know the last time we talked about if we can't get some kind of commercial use out of it, that we still protect it maybe as a historic site with a museum or some kinds of exhibits and things like that in it, which I think we need downtown Boynton.
And what's nice, and I like this location first because it's on ocean, so it definitely has more presence. If it's cost prohibitive for it to be used for commercial spaces, meaning they can't put kitchens or ovens or whatever else they need, it can turn into a small museum, and that space in front of it can still be activated from the commercial uses that are being built next door. So it will still be opportunity to engage with the historic structure.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Victor.
Hello.
Please.
Is it, okay, it's on now. Brother Norris, I had a question. In putting it back, you're gonna have like an open space, and it would be visible. And that's kind of what we want this to be, like a walkway. Is that the intent of Ocean? Because if you're gonna have a space there, you assume that people are gonna walk down it. So are you, or will the city be able to have something there related to the history or the Andrews House or the history of Boynton or the historical, because that's a historic house. So I'm just curious what you would have in it and if it would be for the whole city or just.
Well, typically whenever you have a historic building, property, structure, usually you'll see some type of placard or sign that might be there. At this point, whenever we get to that point, I'm sure that that's something that we can discuss.
That you'd be open to?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a sign that I can visualize in my head right now, and it's not helpful for you guys, unless you're a minor here. I'm just thinking of some historic structures down in Delray that would have a small sign that, might have a few words about it. Again, I'll bring it up to the property owner to tell them that that is something that this board is
Well, the reason I asked that is because of the schoolhouse, and it has little stuff in it. I think the Andrews used to be a museum
It was
at
for,
one time, and that is another part of its history, and it's gonna be on Ocean Avenue. So I would hope it's not just gonna be locked up with a sign out front.
no, the intent of the property owner is to use it for a income producing property. So, as Amanda had mentioned, a coffee shop or some other commercial venture that could go in there and actually utilize the structure.
That would be nice. I think if I had my choice, my druthers, I would rather have it on the site of the fourplex. There is currently a small part in the front, which is kind of a courtyard in front of the fourplex. I think having it facing Ocean Avenue, it would increase the strollability. I mean, we've always wanted Ocean to be a strollable kind of a thing, where you go from shop to shop, and having it tucked away that far behind, down, what is it, northeast, what is that, little tiny street? Because you guys are gonna use that little tiny street for egress and ingress for your complex, right?
I'm not sure where the access points are for that.
Unless they've changed the
The main access is on there. And Chairwoman, as I look at this is approximately where it would be settled. I believe our codes allow for about 15 to 20 feet from your property, and we wouldn't be able to set it back much further than that. So this does look like about the correct location for the house.
So it could face ocean and become part of the strollability thing.
Absolutely, that is the goal.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Okay, all right, I don't know, what does everybody else think? That, looking at it from that, that's a pretty good sized courtyard right there in front. I mean, how much space do you need, really?
No, it is, that is about the right scale, because the house is small, and we don't want it to be hidden either. So it does need to have some space, I think, for people to interact with it, but it can't be so far back that it's hidden.
And this tiny road here along the side that would be a hazard to pedestrians now. Oh, let's wander down there and, see what that cute little house is, visit that commercial spot, but I don't know. So you're pursuing grant money, did I hear you say?
We are not actively looking at anything. We've spoke to the city if they have any opportunities for funds that would reduce the cost of relocating the structure.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned in the last hearing, based off our analysis of the city's code, is that this would not be designated a historic structure since it's previously been moved, which is against your 6.B.2 code provision. But we understand, what the board and the city wants, so we're trying to help facilitate that.
Okay. That's
Well,
good
and
news.
I do want to clarify, just for the record, it does say that relocated sites, shall not be relocated unless the reason for significance, there are some exceptions. One of those exceptions is architectural, if we are preserving it for its architectural reasons.
Mhm.
So if the report supports the preservation of that building for its architecture, then it still can be designated in a relocated
Okay,
place.
yes, I remember putting that in there.
Thank you for that.
And so there's absolutely no chance it would stay where it is in its original location.
Okay. Okay,
Appreciate
what can we do for you? We
I'm
want
here to
to,
answer questions and hear what everyone had to say.
I think you heard us say we want to keep it.
Understood.
It's important to us.
I will just add so everyone is on the same page. The owner is actively looking at conceptual plans for the south parcel. So my only ask, and for you to please bring that back to the owner, is that we would be looking for this to be done in conjunction with that approval, and we do expect it to be a condition of approval. So whatever we need to do to kind of solidify one path forward, and we look forward to working with you, because we don't want this to be an issue moving forward with the south development.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, David, thanks for coming. You didn't have any questions, did you have any questions? I will catch you up on all this later. All right, very good. All right, moving along. Time for our annual report to the city commission. What months are still open? Here we go, this is like the truth.
Only 2 left in the year, so I don't know. Let's worry.
For sure. All right. Good evening. The city assistant city manager, Catherine Matos, she confirmed that the November 7th meeting is available, and the board can present their annual report at that meeting. Discussing it with Amanda, typically that meeting date can be moved. However, you'll continue to communicate with Catherine to ensure that you guys are on that meeting, whichever date it may be settled on. So right now it's scheduled for November 7th.
That's the only choice
At the moment, yes.
at the moment, yes?
Mhm.
December's booked?
The December meetings typically the second one gets canceled, and I believe there's one already scheduled for the first meeting in December.
Okay. Okie dokie, Smokey. Are you back by then, Ben? You're not back by then? Okay. Okay, I have some ideas about the report and what I would like to see put in it. And, I don't know how to do a PowerPoint, so I have some questions for the people who do know things about PowerPoints. The size of the format is regular sheet of paper, 8.5 by 11, or you can do the 8 by 14.
They typically would either be like a square format or widescreen. So it's not, you can, the widescreen would be more like a sheet of paper, the proportions.
Okay, so widescreen would be like the 8.5 by 11.
Yes.
So if we got the wording put together, do any of you guys want to do it? You probably know how to do PowerPoints. That's, you know, ask the kids.
Good, because I do too.
Yeah.
I didn't want to volunteer, but I'll help.
You know what we can do to staff can facilitate a little bit. So if, Geraldine, if you have materials that you want to give me, I can pass them to another board member to style it into a PowerPoint.
Our new board member.
Has a marketing, he works in marketing, so
Yeah.
that sounds like a perfect fit.
Okay, super.
So what I would say is if you can please just email me and Jayoon and Craig, the text that you want to include and images that you want to include, and we will get that over to Bradley, correct? Bradley Jackson?
Yeah.
And then he can put together the PowerPoint. Once I receive that from him, I can distribute it to the board for any final comments.
Okay.
An easier way would be to save it as a PDF, send it to.
Yeah, I mean, whatever works, I mean, I can do it however you want, I mean, Word, PowerPoint, Canva, depends on how nice you want it to look.
How's the city computer set up to use which program?
So we end up saving it as a PDF, but for the transfer of materials from you to Mr. Jackson, I would suggest that they're just JPEGs and text. Otherwise, it might be difficult to place it and style it how he'd like it. Like if you give him a PDF already, he won't be able to take the raw materials and put it into PowerPoint.
It's
Not easily used. So as long as it's just like a Word document with pictures, he could do his magic and put it in either PowerPoint or Canva. He could send it to me in either format. We use both in the office, but we will be flattening it into a PDF for the actual presentation. So no animations or anything like that.
Oh, darn.
I would
No
think-
spinning pictures.
I would just make one suggestion, this is nothing about Bradley, it's just that he's new and he doesn't know about what we've been doing in the last year maybe as well, so maybe Barbara, you could meet with him or some other members as they
Yeah.
decide what to put together on which slide or whatever.
Well, I don't think the idea was for me to put content in it, I was just
No.
gonna.
It's gonna make it look pretty.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I mention just a couple of things, if we could include Barb when you?
Yeah, let's make a list. What do you want?
Since when I first came on the board, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, Ben had suggested to Mike Rumpf that each year there's an opportunity for interns to come work on the survey. I heard one of my last meetings, you mentioned it again. If we could have some type of conversation either with staff or with the commission at that meeting to see if there's consensus to make that happen, because there's some reason that why we can't execute on that and do, because I think the last survey was
Microphone
96, it was 96 was the last survey.
Update, yeah.
Because if you look at it's 30 years later essentially, right? So a lot of things have changed. There's Leisureville, other developments that are now in the historic realm. So, Art Deco is now, you're into that era of preservation. So a different look-see should happen with a new survey. And since it's always been offered by FAU to offer those interns to help facilitate it, and we don't have the staff to do it, if Amanda thinks that's something we could include in the.
If I may, I think that's a fantastic idea. I do remember board member bringing it up last time. And I'm welcome. I haven't received anything from them. I asked you to please have them reach out to me. There's two ways that this could happen. They could reach out directly to me, and we can, I think by, I don't say by law, but our direction from HR now has been that if they are creating a product for us, they would need to be paid interns. And that's not a problem because the city has now curated an intern program. So there might be a couple of opportunities to get this done. If there were a few that would like to come and actually work as interns for the city on this project, that's one way, they would be getting paid. There may be some new interpretation if it's facilitated by a school. We can, there are some options.
Partnerships, some
Sure.
type of professional partnership in,
Yeah.
because I think that.
I remember the last time we talked about this, I had mentioned that students get credit. There's an
That's right.
internship program where they get credit. You said maybe they don't have to be paid then because they're getting some benefit anyway, even though it's not money
Yeah.
out of it. But there may be some too that are in the graduate program or whatever who might want to do a paid internship as well. So
And we can offer both.
what I can do is I can just send you contact information, and I will talk to the person who's in charge of the internship program. She's really, really busy, but I'll tell her that she's got to reach out and
Is it the same lady that did this area?
yeah, she's the one that did the survey back in '96. She's
So
still
they're
gonna pay
helpful
you,
for
but
her.
she's about ready to retire, I think.
Well, we'll shoot her off on this first.
Right.
The other is, some of the structures that we can control. That we encourage the commission to start thinking about historic preservation as economic development tools. Not always is it an obstacle for development. It can be meshed as part of your community where you blend your history. It's kind of like, I used this term many years ago in Lake Worth, old Florida charm, new Florida style. So, you still have the old historical structures, but you start to do and introduce new uses like maybe taking a historic structure and it becomes a bed and breakfast, or a coffee shop is being proposed for Andrews. Or we can't just think that it's, just can be a residential structure and no opportunities for for the preservation and reuse of it. So just some thoughts because I think what I have found in general is education is usually somebody just isn't aware of the value of historic preservation. Maybe they're just not exposed to it, whatever it may be. Obviously, you all know I come from Lake Worth, where we created, a lot of historic structures. There's I think the largest concentration of historic structures in Palm Beach County is now in Lake Worth, over 1,100 that are actually in districts. So when I came here, one of the first boards I joined was the Historic Preservation Board before I got on the planning board. So if we can make an impact, if there's some things we can do, I realize the Flagler train station's gone. I just don't want to see structures like the Women's Club, because demolition by neglect is very real. And when you really analyze the assets that cities have, I found this to be very true in Lake Worth and Delray and Boca and West Palm in the early days when a lot of the transitioning was happening and a lot of the older structures were just being demolished. And that's why some of us in Lake Worth said, hey, we gotta do something in Lake Worth we don't want to have cookie cutter homes in a row. We like the cottages and the Mediterranean revival homes mixed with Art Deco homes, and it just made a really nice, cohesive neighborhood in a blend of styles without that cookie cutter feel. And here I am. I now live in a gated community, cookie cutter with a gate. Right? I love it, but I never thought I would. But it's just very interesting how you grow and you learn. But it's also hindsight's 20/20, and I still see a lot of historians educating them about the value. You gave me a brochure once.
Yeah.
I'll try to find it. If you can
They might
include
still
that.
have copies of it.
It was a
The
brochure.
study from the University of Florida on,
The value of economic development with regards to historic preservation.
that it's a proven driver, it's a.
And actually, if you just look at what's very interesting, Lake Worth has had no development, new buildings built, okay? Essentially, a couple infill projects, the mids, and a few that the guys that are doing the piers here do in Lake Worth. Other than that, there really has been no development of increase in structure. So the valuation, when you look at it, is really increased dramatically in the last 20 years since we put, or 25 years since we put those historic designations in place in the historic home. I'm talking about in the $1 million range. In fact, my old home, 3 doors down, Guy Fieri just bought a home there, for $3.2 million.
Oh, wow.
So it's interesting.
No, it's definitely on my
It
list.
can be.
It's definitely on my list. And the updated intern list is on my list.
One last thing, I was gonna mention something about, back to the neglect, demolition by neglect. We have to identify funding sources to continually maintain these properties. Otherwise, this one little thing becomes a big thing. And when you're not using these bit structures, like we're really not using them regularly, then when water intrusion gets in, before you know it, we have to close the balcony. Before you know it, we have to close the second floor. We can't use that. And I've seen this all happen for years and years with historic structures.
Well, actually, the city's been working diligently keeping the women's club up.
Yes, I've seen the repairs that have come through and the upgrades to the restrooms and the balcony. And yes, it's very appreciated. I just want to make sure that the Magnuson looks in disrepair and Andrews looks.
Yeah, what's going on with the Magnuson? Have you heard from that guy?
I mean, am I wrong? They're being maintained properly.
Well, the
No
Magnuson,
blocking wood and,
they handed the Magnuson over to somebody.
well, it was gonna be a barbecue restaurant. We approved at one time, Troy's Barbecue was gonna,
I don't believe that it actually turned hands. I believe it is still in the ownership of the CRA formerly. And they did have an RFP out for the reuse of that structure for, I believe it was Troy's Barbecue. I have not heard an update on that project in quite some time. We will have one for you for the next meeting.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah.
the same week he came to us with that project, he was opening the Peach in West Palm on Tamarind Avenue. And he just closed it this week. He was in partners with Rodney Mayo. I think Rodney was also one of the parties in this deal that was coming to down.
Yeah, there were some internal things happening with them on the business side, and they were also working through some of the requirements for the certificate of appropriateness, some of the things that we would allow them to do to the house and the things that we would not. But it's been quite some time. The last I heard is when they were in front of the CRA board. I want to say it must have been 5 or 6 months ago. So I will follow up.
It's okay if those, one last thing, it's okay if remember they were gonna build that kitchen made out of those storage containers? So.
Yes.
So it's okay if that goes away. Don't encourage it if
I
it
won't-
goes
I won't
away.
touch it.
It's okay. It's all right.
Okay, do you have a little bit of information about what COAs they were considering?
Off the top of my head, I do not remember. It was some of the work they wanted to do on the interior and some of the work on exactly what Board Member Rumiche was talking about, if one would be required for their addition, which was those shipping containers that they would be using as habitable space. So they were placing a kitchen, a bar, a restroom all around it. And then they wanted to add on a deck to the front of it. And they were having some material concerns. There were some issues for, there was an actual expansion to part of it, if that would be permissible. I believe we worked through all of their concerns internally with staff, so I'm not sure the cause of the delay. My guess is that it's more on the internal side, on the business side.
Is anything that would affect the front visage of the facility would be something that we would need to look at?
Yes, the certificate of appropriateness, depending on the scale of it, would come in front of the board. Our conversations with them said that we didn't want any major changes to the front or to anything that you could see from the right of way. So even where they were putting some of those metal containers, We're having them screen and put lush landscaping to kind of soften it, so the house would look more like it's natural habitat, more like it's in a residential state than having to kind of, they wanted to put murals, I think, on these pieces, which just looked very contrary to that existing house. So they were still working through it. I'm not sure where they are right now.
See, as opposed to board member Vermicio, I don't mind the containers.
Contracts?
Yeah, they're not attached to the building.
Nope.
They're in the grassy area, away, and murals on them, to me, is fine.
And there are successful examples of that, for sure. There are successful examples. So I think as long as the integrity of the actual home on the frontage isn't impacted by code, and it would have staff's recommendation of approval. And they have been very amenable to some of our suggestions so far. But the container homes, if it's going to be this applicant, the container homes are here. So the only way we're not going to have the container homes is if this entire, in my opinion, if this entire deal doesn't move forward.
Well, in my opinion, if it saves
The building.
this, yeah, and they're over there, go for it.
It's a good deal.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Tom. All right, anything else? All right, so we're gonna be on the commission's agenda for November 7th. Lucky yes.
Yeah, so just to clarify, so it's November 7th, and then when do you need it, the final document back?
That's a very great segue. Well, that doesn't leave us a lot of time at all. So our internal deadlines to get things onto the agenda is formally 3 weeks before the meeting date. That does have I have some magical powers in there, so we do have some wiggle room on that, but I need it no later than 2 weeks before the meeting date. So if the meeting is on November 7th, then I would need it by the 24th. The due date would formally be the 17th, so sometime between the 17th and the 24th.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I was gonna
You didn't know that the board came with homework.
It's all right, it won't be painful. I'll make it easy on you.
Okay.
I'll take it easy. Okay,
I know we talked about this last time, but hopefully the number one priority I think all of us have is for historic commandment.
oh yeah.
And that becomes, that's gonna drive everything else. And so I really think we need to highlight that in all of this, and I know you will. But I
Our
just
wish
wanna just
list,
say
yes.
that,
That's number one on our wish list. But no offense, you guys.
None taken.
Okay.
We miss Warren Adams too.
He's moved away, I hear.
He has.
Anybody else? New business? No? Yes?
I have something real quick. The Point Beach Historical Society has asked me to find out more about the visitor center over in City Hall and what historic information is being provided there. And I have to say, I've been bad. I didn't go over there and check, and I will do that soon. But we do have, and I found brochures with the codes on them, where people could actually do a walk around the city. There's QR codes. I actually found the brochure, and I think there's 2 of them that we had. Can you give me an update on how that visitor center is coming along and what kinds of historic things are part of it, maybe?
Sure, and I'll have to look because I know it's in the works. I think they got the kiosks in there finally. I pass it every once in a while. So it's coming together. In terms of information, I believe it's up to us. If there's anything that you want to make sure is showcased there, please let me know and we can make sure that it's in there.
All right, and that's right near the entrance, right? When you come in, isn't
It
it
is.
straight down?
So if you come in from the doors that are on Ocean, you'll turn right, and then I believe it's like the second, the first conference was a conference room to your right. It's a glass room. And in there, it is not done yet, but the materials are starting to get stored. I believe the kiosks were delivered in there too.
I do have those two brochures. I don't know if we have the original.
I think
We
the
can
city
make more
still has
copies of
them.
them.
You guys,
We may, those are those the two brochures about those walks, those historic walks? Yeah, I believe we still have them, but again, if you wanna email them, a quick picture of them to make sure that I'm looking at the right
Right.
things.
Okay,
And the same thing, Chairwoman, if you referenced a brochure about the value of historic and economic development, was that
It
right?
was a, University of Florida booklet.
Okay, I will,
You might still have copies of it, I'm not certain. I have my copy.
I will look. If you have one in just now, but if you could show me just what it looks like, because I do have a few boxes that I'm still rummaging through of Mike Brum's stuff. And I think that in that stuff is some of Mr. Adams' stuff.
Yep.
So I want to make sure that I'm referencing the right materials, but we can digitize them all.
Two of them. That one? Florida Heritage, Economic Impacts on Historic Preservation of Florida. It's from 2010.
Okay.
It's an old one. Executive Summer Green one. And multicolored one.
That one I know I've seen. Okay, all right.
This
I will
is-
take a look.
This is newer. This is 2017 and 2021.
That's also a US study?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No,
No,
this
it's
is
a
from,
comp
this
plan.
is from, SHIP,
Oh, okay.
It's a comp plan.
the State Department, Florida. Florida Department of State, Division of Historical Resources. The SHIP, they call it SHIP.
Thank you for that. I'll take a look.
Okay, that's moving. All right. Anybody have any comments?
I had, I guess a comment, question. I guess on page 12, it says the town of Boynton subdivision plat 1898. Is this the only one that was platted that you're saying this is where the town of Boynton began, or is this just where this house is at? So that was one of the reasons. That actual.
What's page 12?
I'm sorry.
24.
What?
24, I guess it's 24, it says 24.
I apologize. Are you referencing the report for the Andrews House?
Yeah, it says town of Boynton subdivision, plat 1898, maybe I'm looking at a different one, this is the one.
What was your question? I'm looking at.
Remember
Right.
seeing a reference to a Sanborn map?
Was this
Those are early plotting maps that are available through, you can get them through the courthouse.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was asking, is this the only plat that's in town of Boynton or is there other
There's
subdivisions?
many different plats for different subdivisions throughout the city.
This is like
This is-
1898.
yeah.
That's what, like 1898.
There's one that
This is just for
a
this neighborhood.
kid drew. The child, there was a child that drew,
Yeah, but that's.
but it's not an official plat.
Yeah,
No.
It's not a plat.
But I think it was like probably way earlier than this one. Because this looks pretty official.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been like one of the original neighborhoods in the city, like you said, and that's why they call it Town of Boynton, but like, there's many other plats.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
it says
understand the
subdivision
question.
plats
Okay.
on it, so.
I understand the question now. So some of the earlier plats, that when the city incorporated, some of the subdivision plats were titled Town of Boynton, and then the year that we were bringing them into annexation. So I assume that this is the original plat for this area,
Okay.
of this specific land area.
Are you looking for ones for a plat north of Boynton Beach Boulevard?
No, I was trying to see if there were other plats that says town of Boynton subdivision plat that go.
There's books and books and books full of plats.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get them from.
Yeah, where you got-
They're all recorded publicly. Yeah, they're all publicly recorded and kept.
They are recorded with the county.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else? Comments?
We have a new archivist, right? Do we know who this
I don't know,
person
did they have one hired?
No.
So I don't have a firm answer, but I asked recently and I was told that one wasn't on staff yet, and I asked about a month ago, so I'm not sure. I technically asked for, they had that position titled as a historian, and it was housed within the library. We were directed to the assistant director, so I'm not sure if
I
he's
am.
on staff.
I went earlier up there to talk to a person and she's no longer there. They gave me a Amy Taylor
Yes, he was the
as the
assistant.
contact. I was asking about the plats because, I did my book on foundations of faith. What I was gonna do, this is just a generic painting, I painted this. But what I was gonna do is I was gonna ask them about the actual plaques. And then looking at this one, it kind of matches up because this was St. Paul, and that was Reverend Butler, and this is Boynton Beach Boulevard. And so on this side were the other plaque. So that's why I was asking about the plaque. And that's how I know she's no longer there, and they're looking for her, so I was like. So yeah, she's no longer there, but,
Yeah.
that's kind of why I was looking, asking about the different plaques. 'Cause
And the reason I ask is because, I know some people that might be interested in applying, and it's in the city's website, that they're looking for someone, but the closing date was back in June. But it's still up there as if the job is available. So that's why I'm kind of wondering, is that closing date correct or not? At least this is what when I looked it up last week, that's what it was.
Okay.
I did a Google search for it because, there was some, graduate
You should
students.
tell them to come and apply.
Well, I have.
Well,
I've
this says
asked- I've
expired
asked
in
this-
June.
Because I know in Delray Beach, they hired an ME graduate at FAU to do it, and I know that person, and there are some others that might be interested in this job. But,
Maybe it's June of 24. I don't know, what do you think, Amanda?
My guess is that the job is no longer open, but since they have not hired someone, so June. Because it closed doesn't mean that we hired someone, so I can get an internal update for you.
Okay.
Story.
That'd be
it
interesting.
actually said archives
Archives?
on the job description that I saw.
Well, I had heard that they hired someone, a young man, fresh out of school, but maybe he found something bigger and better.
Intern.
They had hired someone, but he got sick and due to medical reasons, he could not
Oh, bummer.
take the job.
Thank you, Catherine.
All right, the one other thing I wanted to bring up is that at the last meeting, there was an update on the Boynton Beach website. There was a blurb about the history, and there were some inaccuracies in it, and I contacted, I forget her name.
June, I
Yeah,
believe it
right.
was taken.
And so I noticed it's been taken down, and I'm just wondering what's gonna happen with that. Can I get someone, a historian or somebody to write up something? Because we used to have a pretty extensive, website on the history of Boynton Beach, and now there's just nothing there. It says it's a dead link when you try to go there. So I'm just wondering what's going on with that.
Yeah, so our website is still being migrated over. Tell me this isn't it, right? We took it, this isn't the. I was told that we couldn't legitimize, some of the facts in there, so because of that, we did choose to take it down. I do know that we are still migrating some of the information over. We have added quite a bit on here, so the designation process is here, the review criteria and codes for historic preservation are on here. Some of the terms and definitions that relate to it. We do have our recent designations list and our historic properties list on here.
I think that part was fine. It was the description of the history of the city that had some errors
Yes,
in it.
oh, that's right, it wasn't on the
That's
historic
the part that
website.
got taken down, and I'm just wondering if we can
So we
try to work on
can,
getting that back up there, so people know about the history of the city.
sure, and if I remember correctly, it wasn't on the historic preservation site, I believe it was like on the, it was on one of the landing pages.
Yeah.
So we ended up removing it. Absolutely, I mean, we don't have an archivist, we would obviously need to be able to, fact check everything.
Maybe get Janet to write it for us?
She could write it, but what happened is she brought it to my attention, and I went to it, the Florida historian in our department who checked the facts on it, and he did say there were some mistakes, so that's why she took it down.
Well, if we got Janet to write something and gave it to them, they could probably get it.
That's what I'm wondering, because there was a
Absolutely.
pretty extensive history before the new website went up, and Janet may have written that.
Yeah,
So she may be able, I know she's concerned that what goes up is accurate, she's sort of our town historian, so.
absolutely. So I believe it was on the About Boynton Beach page. I think it was on this landing page where it was wrong. So absolutely, if something is drafted by someone credible that we can fact check, absolutely, I'd be happy to get it on the
All
website.
right, thank you.
We'll get the person you would be fact checking with to write it for us.
Exactly. That makes my life very
Here's
easy.
the plan. Okay, very good. All right, anything else, comments, board members? I actually have some, a comment. The Historical Society, of which I am the program chair, like me. The October 23rd is our next free program, done by Zoom. If anyone is interested, I will be happy to get you the Zoom address to watch. The title of the program is Wiki Watchy City of Mermaids. So we're going to visit Wiki Watchy virtually.
What's Wiki Walkie?
Wiki Watchy.
It's a mermaid.
You don't know what Wiki Watchy is?
No.
That's the one, up by Silver Springs, where the.
Mermaids.
I just learned of this recently.
No, it's in the center of the state, center of the state somewhere. Okay. It's one of those,
It's a mermaid show.
tourist traps.
It's a mermaid show, essentially. I just saw a big documentary on it, actually, recently on Netflix.
Good job.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Cool.
It was more about mermaids than Wikiwachi, but it highlighted, like, the first couple of episodes were housed in, were there.
Yeah, well, there's attention on mermaids at the moment because of the remaking of the Disney movie.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And Chairwoman, if you could please make sure I'm on that list, I would love to be notified so I can start watching them too.
Oh, good, okay. Yeah, our Zoom programs are always free, and now that we have access to the Florida Humanities speakers page, we're having all the programs I want to see.
Nice.
Imagine that. Put me in charge, you're in trouble. Yes, Victor.
I forgot to mention, the Meeks House that we designated historic, we're gonna be replacing the wood on the outside of it on the 21st, and it's open to all volunteers. Okay, so we're gonna have a bunch of guys come out, men, to take the wood off. We have someone that's historic who knows exactly what to do, and we're gonna have the ladies on the side serving us nice cool drinks. And we're just gonna have, a good time, but it's gonna go from 9 o'clock till 4 o'clock, and we'll see how much we get done on that Saturday, but that's gonna be the actual first, knock on wood, repairs.
All right.
Board Member Vargas, I would ask you to review your changes with staff. I believe that changes like that to a designated home may need a certificate of appropriateness that does need either administrative or board approval.
Okay, I already spoke with someone about the type of wood, so it's the exact same wood. And it's the exact same boards. It cost us a lot of money, but we had to go out of state and get it shipped from California. It's a cypress wood, but basically it's not any changes, we're just taking off the old wood, but I'll check and give that information.
Thank you, yes. And my cards are right here at the end. If you could send me the changes and we can set you up with the right approvals, hopefully in a rush, so you can have your events.
Cool, okay.
Okay, very good. Anything else? You guys? Yes? No? Okay, very good. If there's no objections, we stand adjourned. Seeing no objections, we stand adjourned. Okay, my dear.
Here's my card with the email everything on it. Try and send me that stuff as soon as possible. Have it done in the next 12 months.
My painting is atrocious, but my imagination